academic stuff, this is easy because you know, generally speaking, that there's a right answer. You know there's a way to fix the washing machine. You know that it was working before, it's not working now, so something went wrong. You just gotta find the something. You're looking at your sink, it's backed up. It can only be backed up in a couple of places, so you know there's a solution. You know there's an answer to it. But sometimes in life you don't know if there's a solution, you don't know if there's an answer. But one thing you can be absolutely sure of is that you're not going to find the answer probably in 30-second bits of thinking. It takes long, sustained thinking to come up with answers for things. What should you do with your life? How do you want to decide that? Do you want to have a committee? Get a bunch of people together? What do you think I should do? And then you want to do what they tell you to do? A lot of people, by the way, the answer to that question is yes, because a fear of freedom is a fear of responsibility. If I can get you to tell me what to do, and then I do what you told me to do, the responsibility is no longer mine. Like, well, that's what they told me to do. Yeah, but the consequences are still yours. Even if, whether it's right or whether it's wrong, whether it turns out well or if it turns out badly, you still have to live with those consequences. You're not going to get those true answers for yourself by consulting committees. It takes solitude, to be alone by yourself, really by yourself, without influence, without entertainment, without things kind of bombarding you, but to actually stop and focus on a problem. That confidence thing, by the way, I don't want to just shoot past it. It is important. Like I was talking about, I think maybe I was telling you guys about it, but I remember telling one of my classes about it, that one of the best things I think that my dad ever did for me was to be really, almost hands-off with things. So for example, I remember being a little kid. I'm talking like 7, 8 years old or so. And my sink, my bathroom got clogged up. So I went to my dad and told him that my sink was backed up. And so my dad said, you should probably fix that. I'm like 7 or 8 years old, and so I have no idea how to do it. And so he says, well, figure it out. And so he gave me his toolbox, and he went and he sat in the bathroom with me. I opened up the bottom of the cabinet. I was trying to figure out how that would happen. And then I saw, it probably is in these pipes that run underneath the sink. And so I asked him, how do I take this off? And he looked at me and he said, you should probably figure that out. So I'm like, like a lot of people, I'm sure I was kind of annoyed at first. But I remember finally unscrewing the pipe and then taking it off, and water just goes all over the place. And I look, I'm like, oh my God, what? And I was like all nervous, and my dad said, it's just water, it's dirty water, but now you've learned something. You can't, I'm like, okay. So he said, what do you suppose you should do next time? I said, probably get a bucket and put it underneath the sink. And he says, yep. Did he know that the water was gonna go all over the place? Yeah, of course he did. He's done it enough times. He's watching me, and he'd watch me make mistakes like that. And so then next time, of course, I got a bucket. And then the only time I ever remember him stepping in when I was trying to fix something was when I was trying, I don't know how old I was. It was a few years after this though, probably like around 10 or so. I was replacing a light switch on a wall. He told me when I went to go do that, he said, first thing, shut off the circuit breaker. So he wasn't gonna let me die, but he was gonna let bad stuff happen. And it really wasn't so bad, because he looked back on it and I asked, well, what happened to that water? It got cleaned up, of course. But what was derived from that? And what's derived from that is an ability to understand how things operate, and then to understand that when things don't go the way that I want them to, there's always a fix to it. Yeah, it's annoying, water splashes all over the place, but you can clean it up. But what if it gets on your cotton balls or whatever? Well, then you replace the cotton balls. It's like $1 or something or whatever it is to replace them, just a couple of bucks. But the thing is that you learn something you could not learn any other way. Imagine if I'd asked my dad, how do I fix it? My dad said, well, first you do this, then you do this, then you do this. I would learn how to follow directions, but I never would have learned how to do stuff like that for myself. And so consequently, then fast forward, years later, I have my first car. And I learned how to fix cars by fixing my car. Something would break on my car, and I would find out what had broken on it, and then I would figure it out and just go, well, does this thing need to be replaced, or can the thing itself be fixed? And sometimes you have to replace the object. Like I broke my manifold intake, if anyone knows what that is in a car. That can't be fixed. That has to be replaced. So then I learned how to replace that. I learned how to work on cars just by doing that, figuring things out. I learned how to replace a timing belt because the timing belt on one of my cars broke. And I was like 19 or so, I couldn't afford to fix it. So I talked to a friend of mine and we bought like a repair manual. That's how I learned how to fix timing belts on cars, which they don't really have them anymore. But there's something that's there when you have an understanding about how the world operates or how things operate. You learn how to figure them out so that you don't really have to worry as much about things. It still blows me away, and maybe it's a generational thing, I don't know. But I see guys with flat tires on the side of the road, and they're waiting for roadside assistance. And I think you can't just change a tire. It's not super hard. But then again, it probably is super hard if you've never had to do it before, and you're on the side of the freeway and cars are blowing past you. But the thing about that is that then you become dependent on other people to fix things. And what that means is that every little thing that goes wrong feels catastrophic. Like if your plumbing breaks and you feel like you have to call a plumber to fix it, how complicated is plumbing? If you've never had to fix it before, it seems really complicated. But as soon as you understand it, it's not so complicated. It's like my washing machine broke and I fixed it. You look at it and you go, what's wrong with my washing machine? And you figure out there's only so many parts. It isn't like it's a really complicated machine. And then you figure out what's not working, and then you can take the part, if you need to, you can take the part to a Home Depot or whatever and ask them, what part is this? Or and then they can point you in the right direction, and just to replace it. So little things like that, if you can figure out on your own. And it's not just that it saves you a whole bunch of money. It does do that, but it teaches you a deeper lesson, which is that things are very rarely ever so screwed up that you can't handle it. And sometimes it is a pretty complicated thing and you can't handle it. Like the CV joint on my truck broke one time, actually twice, one on each side. If you know what that is, essentially, as I'm driving, my truck, the CV joint broke on it, and that means that your tire just kind of goes like this, and you go straight down into the ground while you're driving. So that's happened twice to me. Both times while I was on my way to the freeway. I think, if that had happened on the freeway, got some real problems. That I don't know how to fix. So I know what the part is. I know kind of this general idea. So I call a friend of mine. He comes over and he fixed it both times. So stuff like that. Yeah, there are some bigger things where you do need help. But to always be asking for help on everything makes you dependent, and it keeps you dependent. And that's a problem, not just in fixing cars. Like when we get those call slips that come in here, sometimes I give them to students. I don't read what they say, I just see your name on it and I give it to you. And I'll have students who will come up to me and ask me, what do I do? When do I go? Wherever I go. I have no idea. I haven't read the slip. What does the slip say? I'm like, I don't know. Why? Because you're probably used to teachers saying, go to the office now. I'm gonna hand it to you, or go to room whatever now. And then we just kind of follow those directions and then we go, rather than read the thing itself. And if we struggle to read that, it's no surprise that then we struggle to read things in our English class. And we'll just kind of ask like, wait, tell me what it says. What does it mean? And that's the thing about our society. And it's not like things were better back then. We have to adapt to it. But I see this more and more. It's not just in English class. It's just that I'm here, I see that. I also see it in like math classes. Math teachers tell me that they'll be explaining the process, and students will just be like, "Well, what's the answer? How do hang on, we'll get there. In other words, it's the willingness to try things and to figure things out for ourselves. When I teach jiu-jitsu, I'll have people come in for the first class ever, and I'll teach them a movement or I teach them a technique, and they'll literally do it for the first time, and it's not good. It's not correct. I should say that. And then I'm not joking. Like once or twice they'll try, and they're like, "Oh man, I suck at this." And I think, wow, of course, you're not perfect the first time. You're not gonna be good at anything the first time. Of course not. I'm thinking about it, it's funny because on my phone there, because I don't really use Facebook, but I'll go up there sometimes because the notifications pile up. So I'll go up there just to delete the notifications. When I went to delete them just now, it's still on my phone. Somebody posted on Marketplace that they were selling a gi for jiu-jitsu. Those stupid uniforms that we wear. It says $50, and at the bottom it says only used once or twice. And then it turns out you can message the person. So I messaged them and just said, fucking quitter. I have no idea who this person is, but of course I had to do that and then screenshot it and then send it out to all the people I know. How do you know after trying once or twice? And people are like, well, you don't know what happened. Maybe he broke his leg, right? Oh yeah, I'm sure that's what happened. But this is my point. She's like, well, once or twice, like you went through the effort to go there, try it, you bought the thing. You didn't really give it a chance once or twice with most things. Try riding your bike for the first time, the second time. The thing about achieving great things, especially if you're original, the key to achieving powerful things, especially if you're original, is to try it lots and lots and lots of times to be able to work through frustration. The cool thing about your math class is that if you're given a question or a problem, if you're given a problem in your math class, you know there's an answer. You've just got to find it. When I ask you guys a question in this class, you know there's an answer. You just got to think about it. In your history class, if you have a question on a test, you know there's an answer. You just got to find it. The really hard problems in life the really difficult problems in life are when you don't know if there's an answer. Like theoretical physics, meaning it's physics, but you're working on theories, so you're trying to figure out some solutions to problems in the universe. Those are really, really big, of course, but you don't know if there's an answer. You can spend your whole life searching for it, and then at the end, die, never find an answer, and then somebody else can come along and literally crack the whole puzzle in like 2 weeks of work. That happens. Sometimes multiple people spend their whole life trying to solve a problem that there is no answer to. And you might think, that's a wasted life. No, it's a life that's engaged in a pursuit. And it's a life that you never would have known if you hadn't pursued it. Would it have been better to have found an answer? Yeah, I suppose so. But it's going to be what you make of it, if that makes sense. Like sometimes you find the solution, sometimes you don't. Sometimes there is no solution. There is no proper answer. Should you go to college or not? I don't know. I have no idea. Should you have an opportunity for a job? Should you take the job or not? I have no idea. And you won't know either if it's the right answer. Academic stuff, this is easy because generally speaking, that there's a right answer. There's a way to fix the washing machine. You know that it was working before, it's not working now, so something went wrong. You just gotta find the something. You're looking at your sink, it's backed up. It can only be backed up in a couple of places. So there's a solution. There's an answer to it. But sometimes in life you don't know if there's a solution. You don't know if there's an answer. But one thing you can be absolutely sure of is that you're not going to find the answer probably in 30-second bits of thinking. It takes long, sustained thinking to come up with answers for things. What should you do with your life? How do you want to decide that? Do you want to have a committee? Get a bunch of people together? What do you think I should do? And then you want to do what they tell you to do? A lot of people, by the way, the answer to that question is yes, because a fear of freedom is a fear of responsibility. If I can get you to tell me what to do, and then I do what you told me to do, the responsibility is no longer mine. It's like, well, that's what they told me to do. Yeah, but the consequences are still yours. Even if, whether it's right or whether it's wrong, whether it turns out well or if it turns out badly, you still have to live with those consequences. And so you're not going to get those true answers for yourself by consulting committees. It takes solitude, to be alone by yourself, really by yourself, without influence, without entertainment, without things kind of bombarding you, but to actually stop and focus on a problem. And it'd be a good challenge for yourself. Think about how long you can sit without distractions and focus on figuring something out. Think about something. But just sit and think about your favorite Christmases. or your favorite season of the year or whatever, and try thinking about it for more than 20, 30 seconds at a time. See how difficult that would be. And that's the thing that you really like. And that's a problem, because if you can't focus on something like that, how much longer can we focus on the things that we don't want to do? A math question, a short story, something about history. But those things are not just that you know about history and a short story and math problems, so that you develop the ability to work through problems, to problem solve, to focus on one task for a while and get better at it. Because the danger, of course, is if you don't, I promise you, there are people out there who are doing that. And those people you don't see, that's your actual competition. Not the person sitting next to you right now in your chemistry class, or the person sitting next to you in your English class. We're all from the same place. Your competition is the person who you can't see, who is focusing on those problems. Those will be the people who run the world. And those will be the people who run their own companies. In other words, those are people who are in charge of their own lives, who don't seek committees, who engage in this religion of solitude, figure things out, and then follow their own path. So, questions, comments, concerns, complaints, criticisms, critiques? Dope. Neato. Happy Monday.